I wanted to do one final discussion of the DCEU, and this is the future going forward in the James Gunn era. I'd have to consider the former era a huge disappointment. Lasted over a decade, and um, it's kind of a failure. So the first movie is Superman Legacy, not an origin story. It says it's going to follow the younger days of Clark Kent, and it's going to be starring a fellow named David Cornsweet, who looks like somebody cloned Henry Cavill and de-aged him a bit. So apparently this fellow is 6'4", which seems to be about the height they like to go with. So that's the new Superman. And when I look at these things, I try to imagine myself as a casual fan or even less. Uh, People who are going out, these movies don't make hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars and possibly over $1 billion without a lot of non comic book fans going. And so I can imagine people getting quite confused, or that they will get quite confused when they see Jason Momoa and Gal Gadot continuing to play Wonder Woman and Aquaman, and now you've got a new Superman. Um, that would be very confusing to me. Now, I don't understand why they got rid of Henry Cavill since he apparently was willing to continue. It baffles me. Um, and yet they kept what's his name as the Flash. So I don't get it. It says there's a separate Superman movie produced by J.J. Abrams. I'm not a fan of J.J. Abrams. That will be a part of the DC Elseworld World banner. Um, there will be a little more confusion now. You'll have a different Superman. Okay, well, um, all right, a new Superman movie. Now, all of these are tentative. Who knows whether what will come out? We have the Authority. The Authority is it's not Suicide Squad. It's not the Boys. It's a team of superheroes. I don't know a lot about the Authority, but I know they're a team of superheroes that are extremely powerful and have a much more no nonsense. I think that their thing is they'll like kill the villains. Uh, and so they are heroic. They're not like the boys, but their methods are much darker. So that sounds like it could be a great movie. Suicide Squad sounded like it could be a great movie, and it wasn't. At least the first one wasn't. So they need to put out a great movie. So hopefully, I mean, it is a very uh, it has a lot of potential, I'd say. Brave and the Bold will introduce the Bat family, so I assume this is a new Batman. It will focus on the relationship with Robin, who will be Damian Wayans, which in the comics is the son of Bruce Wayne. So we'll see. A new iteration of Batman, separate from Robert Pattinson and Ben Affleck. Uh, James Gunn says he really likes Damian Wayans. I'm also a fan of Damian Wayans, and okay, so it is going to be his father, his son. So that'll be cool. And again, the casual fan is going to be very confused. They're like, well, what happened to Ben Affleck, and why does Batman have a son now? Supergirl World of Tomorrow. So that's based on Tom King's comic run, which somehow flew under my radar from 2021 to 2022. Maybe I'll have to uh, check that one out. And it says Supergirl will be much more hardcore to contrast with the new version of Superman. Then we have a Swamp Thing movie, which it says here the next attempt to bring Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. I don't know why it's Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. He's not the creator of Swamp Thing, although his run was, I would say, by far the best of anyone. So he will be integrated into the DCU, and then we have the Batman Part Two, which is the Robert Pattinson Batman, which is separate from the DCU, and I'm sure confuses people. Then we have HBO Max shows. I do not have HBO. The only or HBO Max. I do the only HBO Max DC series I've ever watched was Peacemaker, which I absolutely loved. I bought it on Blu-ray, so that's how I watched it. Creature Commandos looks like it could be pretty cool. I've always been interested in Creature Commandos. It has Dr. Phosphorus, Nina Mazursky, I don't know who that is, Eric Frankenstein, which is Frankenstein, The Bride of Frankenstein, G.I. Robot, and Rick Flag's father, Rick Flag Sr. So that sounds pretty cool. It says it's going to be written by James Gunn, so that sounds like it could be very interesting. I'm going to pay attention to that one. I'm not planning on getting HBO Max, but I might pick it up when it comes out on Blu-ray, Ray, or whatever. Waller, I couldn't care less. I never liked the Waller character. I didn't like her in the comics, and I don't like her in the movies. Paradise Lost, Game of Thrones inspired fantasy series set on Themyscira. Don't care about that one at all. Booster Gold, I felt that Booster Gold was probably the character they should have made a movie about, not the Blue Beetle. Booster Gold is much more interesting. Self-absorbed and time-traveling hero from the future. Introduced by Dan Jurgens in 1986. All right, and then we have Lanterns, a Green Lantern detective-like mystery series featuring Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. So, yeah, please bring back Green Lantern. Regardless of whether I'm interested, whether I'm not interested, we only have, let's see, for the DCEU, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies announced. And then the Batman is not part of the DCEU. So, not a lot. We have a new Superman. We have a new Batman. But we're keeping some of the old characters. I don't know. I guess, I didn't watch the Flash movie, but I guess Flashpoint is supposed to have rewritten. I guess that's what, but a lot of people didn't see Flashpoint, so it's very confusing even to myself. What DC needs is a hit because they have dug themselves a monstrous hole. And just looking at these numbers, revisiting these numbers again, the last financial hit movie, I would say, was Aquaman, which made 1.14 billion. The next biggest was Black Adam at 393 million, which was considered a big disappointment. So this, as a financial hit, was 5 years ago. And if you look at the reviews, it had a 65% on Rotten Tomatoes and 55% on Metacritic, which means it was much bigger financial hit than critical hit. And my guess is when the next Aquaman movie comes out, which I believe is the next DCEU movie, I'm going to guess that it probably will make less than a third of what this one made. I think this one benefited probably from just some fantastic timing. The last one that was both a critical hit and a financial hit would be Wonder Woman, which made $822 million and had a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. That was 6 years ago. Suicide Squad was financially did very well. Has a 26% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I think that what you saw, a lot of people went and saw Suicide Squad, and they did not go to see the second Suicide Squad, which was a much better film. So I think you're going to see that same thing happen with Aquaman. Maybe not to that extent, but maybe, because DC has set a poor standard. And Marvel is not at all always hitting it out of the park. You know, I enjoyed the first Iron Man movie. I didn't think the second two were very good at all. I thought the first Captain Marvel movie was quite dull. I only see about maybe a third or less of the Marvel movies. And so it's not like everyone is good, but it's good enough to keep them going. They don't have these, there's a big difference between a not great Iron Man and an absolutely horrible Birds of Prey. So I would say Wonder Woman probably was the biggest success they've had. But they're going to need to really really change people's perception of DCEU, or and they need to start. I mean, I'd like to say start putting out movies faster, but they're putting out not too many movies and they're not great. So is putting them out faster going to make them better? Probably not. So we'll see. I like a lot of this stuff. I like James Gunn. I don't want every movie to be with the, the funny style of James Gunn. But we'll see going forward. I think it's going to be a while, a couple years before these movies start coming out. But anyway, that's the future of the DCEU.